Church of England apologizes to LGBTQ+ for institutional rejection and hostility.
In an open letter, we together apologise for the pain, hostility, exclusion and rejection that LGBTQI people have experienced within the Church. We realise that this behaviour has not reflected the universal love of God for all people. We know that we need to change. Up until now, same-sex couples have had no way of publicly expressing their desire to put God at the centre of their relationship and commitment to one another in a Church of England church. And we have begun to produce a suite of prayers. These prayers are known as prayers of love and faith. They mean that same-sex couples who are faithful and seek a lifelong relationship will be able to come into churches in the Church of England for prayers of dedication, thanksgiving, and of God's blessing.
This is an enormously important point, not only within the Anglican Communion and the Church of England, but also across the global church, in which we seek to recognise and to celebrate the love that all people have for one another, regardless of who they are and where they're from.
Church of England bishops apologized to LGBTQ+ people on Friday, January 20th, for the rejection and hostility they faced, with Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby acknowledging that the religious body was still very divided on the subject. The apology comes days after the Church of England set out proposals developed by the bishops that showed it would refuse to allow same-sex couples to get married in its churches, but said priests could bless them in a church. In an open letter, the bishops apologized for not loving the LGBTQ+ community the way God does. The letter also affirmed that the Church of England welcomes the LGBTQ+ community with open arms, as we are all children of God. A spokesperson for LGBTQ+ rights, charity Stonewall, said the Church of England had once again fallen short of being inclusive and supportive of the LGBTQ+ Christians. This apology has come when many queer lives have suffered and a lot faced discrimination and hostility. The most high-profile support from a religious leader for same-sex couples to get married in churches has come from the Bishop of Oxford, Stephen Croft, who apologized in November for having been slow to change his views. Stay tuned at the end of the show to see a special statement from Sunshine Cathedral's Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins about this news. So I was surprised at this story because I tend to think of the Church of England as being a bit more progressive. And I was a little shocked that this is their first kind of coming around to this.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of smoke and mirrors from this statement. You know, that apology, it's like, oh, sorry, we're divided, and hey, listen, we'll bless you, but you can't get married here, and come to church. And well, I don't know. That message didn't really sound like an invitation to me. So I'd like to believe that there's a sincere, you know.
Josie, they're British. You're not going to get anything like that.
I just went to London a couple months ago. I love it. I love it there. But no, seriously, I mean, it's like, are you serious about progress? Are you serious about acceptance? And I'm honestly, I'm tired. I'm exhausted by the tolerance conversation. I don't want anyone to tolerate us. I want us to be accepted. And in order for us to be accepted, I understand that my responsibility is to accept them. And so in this space that it is, I'd rather you hold your lip. I don't need your insincere apologies. Work it out and come back to us.
So you're agreeing with Stonewall's observation that it's not very much.
Yeah, it's
Orlando, I'm curious, you're the executive director of SAVE, political advocacy. You hear these kind of speeches in a different ear and precision than the general public. What is your thoughts?
So, the thoughts and the commentary that I'm going to make is going to cover some of the other stories that we will hear later tonight. And I say this often, and that is that the next 10 years of the LGBT movement will be covered by themes of religion and the trans community. those two issues, right? Sometimes in parallel, sometimes at cross sections together, those are the two that we will grapple with over the next 10 years. Where we are at peace with the ending the weaponization of religion and the end of religion being used for discrimination and the end of religion sort of being this barrier for us to make any progress. That is the next 10 years. And in many ways, we are often painted in the media and in many other spaces as being people that are not religious, as though we are godless, but many people from our community are, and we need to be more open and out about that so that we can continue to tell our story in those spaces, in those church halls, in those spaces where they believe that we do not exist. And so we need to continue to be humanized. So it's the next 10 years, I think, of what's going to define the movement.
And what do you think about what the Church of England has done on Friday?
I'm with Josie, it's not enough. And so when I'm telling you that we've got 10 years to work it out, it's to go from not enough to like getting past the finish line.
Yeah.
Any word from the Southern Baptists on this?
I'm a Southern Baptist, by the way. It's really interesting. In the second week in February, we're going to launch a new show with Hotspots and Happening Out Television Network, and it's a religious show. And we're going to launch a show. Of course, the backbone is Sunshine Cathedral, but it's going to be a religious news, information, and focused conversation in LGBT on faith. Because here are the facts. There's a 75-25 rule in LGBT. 75% of LGBT in America identify as having faith. Shocking number. 75% of us say that we have some kind of religious faith, and however you would define it. Less than 25%, but generally a rule of thumb number, 25, express that faith in some organized way in a church. And so it's interesting in that a very significant number of LGBT, and just exactly as Orlando has said, identify as a person of faith, but only a quarter of us express it in some way, like going to the Church of England, or going to a Methodist church, or a Lutheran church, or a Unity on the Bay, or Sunshine Cathedral. And what's really interesting to me about that is exactly, I think, what Orlando has just identified. The big issue is we're all hurt. The church community, the organized church community, has demonized us. We grew up being demonized. We got that Bible thumping, here's what the Bible says about you, even though it's misinterpreted. And as a result, that rejection has kept us out of organized fashion in religion. And probably one of the reasons why we don't even give the Archbishop of Canterbury the buy-in of going, okay, that's a good step. What's next? And that's what I hear you say. The one thing that I will partially say is encouraging here. The Archbishop of Canterbury is arguably not in the same volume as the Pope, but in terms of the world of the Church of England and for the United Kingdom, is in the same value as the Pope. Right. The Archbishop of Canterbury is the Pope for the royal family and for the predominant religion in the United Kingdom, which has gigantic effects all over the world. And so if the Archbishop is saying, we apologize because the royal ears are listening to that. And I think that is valuable for LGBT, especially in the United Kingdom. So I agree with you in terms of it's not enough, but it is something. It's not nothing. And we need to talk about it 1,000 more times.
Well, and I think it's important to say this out loud based on what you just said. And it's hard for our movement to ever digest this. And that is that our success is made incremental. And so again, when I say 10 years, is that we're going to make sort of, baby steps along the way, and that it's going to get there eventually. And the reason why I say it's important to sort of think about incrementalism is because oftentimes our community will not accept incrementalism. They want it all right now.
We want it
and,
right
and,
now.
And I get it. I get the frustration of why we want it all. And right now it's because we've suffered for a long time. And we want the end of discrimination to come quickly. But change happens incrementally.
And to that point, just one last thought. One of the reasons I'm excited about this new religious show that will start in February, we have to be able to discuss that there are differences in the Archbishop of Canterbury, who you just heard, and Jerry Falwell. There are differences. Everyone can't be lumped into the same bucket and say, throw them all out, because the incrementalism is, if we're going to get to where we want, we can't have universal rejection, which is what Liberty University is. It's a universal and unconditional rejection. And we don't want to be them. We want to be able to say, let's move forward, let's move forward, let's move forward, even though it's really, really hard. The show will be exciting to explore that.
Yeah. Well, I'll be happy in my 25% of the community representing over here. And
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.